You unlock this door with the key of conversation. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of question. A dimension of connection. A dimension of thought. You're moving into a podcast of both inquiry and kinship, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Grog Zone.
Welcome everybody to the Grog Zone with a big giant power bomb. We've got Catie V, Kimberly Spirit here. I usually like to start these episodes with how I've usually met whoever I'm talking to, and the few that I've done so far have just been a weird gamut of, like, I've known them for a long time, or I've kind of met them online through things. But Kimberly, I've never technically met you, and I actually wanted to start this. Do you know what a parasocial relationship is at all?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I feel like we have that, but it's one step further where it's a parasocial mimetic relationship in which I feel like I have a connection to you through the memes you post. But that's not what we're talking about today. I have Kimberly Spirit on, Catie V on today, to talk pro wrestling. She is a pro wrestler who wrestles in the general area where I live. I've seen her perform a number of times, and just through connections of other people I know, was able to set this up and just kind of talking about, you know, wanting to get in the wrestling business myself. And it's just like, okay, you've got a cool, like, you clearly have thoughts about this and a story, and I want to hear it. And because I have the content curse, I wanted to capture it for other people to listen to. Because I think it's cool to capture those stories, especially when they're not always the most, you know, you think pro wrestling, you think kind of, you know, jacked dude. It's like, that's not all pro wrestling is. And I think it's important to capture those stories. So,
Definitely.
introduce yourself. How do you want to start this?
I'm Catie V, and I'm also Kimberly Spirit. But Catie V and Kimberly Spirit are basically the same entity, except that Kimberly is a pro wrestler, and she, basically all her personality traits and abilities are taken to a whole nother level, like turned up to 11. Like I said, I forget if I said it on the thing
No,
before
it's
we
fine.
talked. My brand was that for a while I kept trying to find a brand, basically, because I used to live stream a lot. I used to try to be a content creator. But I could never stick with a moniker. So I was like, okay, I'll just be Catie V, because that's who I am. And it helped cultivate me a following of people who are just like, this is Catie V, and she sometimes makes funny tweets and sometimes they're relatable. And in the last 4 or 5 years, I've gotten into pro wrestling, and Kimberly Spirit has kind of like taken the biggest aspects of who I am to a whole nother level of ass kicking.
Nice.
So yeah.
So I guess, I mean, this is what I get into. What got you? Actually, let's start even further. What got you into professional wrestling? Just in general, like, endeared you to it. Not even like literally as a wrestler, but like what drew you to pro wrestling?
It was literally my older cousin Sean when I was a kid in like the very early 90s. My mom would invite all her sisters over. She has a lot of sisters. She would invite them over on Monday nights to sit and have coffee and cake and stuff and just talk and shoot the shit. And my Aunt Susan's son, Sean, he loved wrestling. And we would watch pro wrestling on TV while my aunts were all, you know, stitching bitching and
Yeah.
stuff. And he got me into all the storylines and all the theatrics and all the violence, and I was immediately hooked. My early favorites were like The Undertaker, Goldust. I feel like I gravitated towards Chyna because she was a woman. But yeah, Undertaker and Goldust were huge factors for me being into wrestling.
Yeah, the big sort of more character-y wrestlers, especially in that time, I feel like they're a little bit more fantastical, maybe.
Yes. Also, my cousin Sean, his name his first and middle name are Shawn Michaels, so he just immediately was like, "I love Shawn Michaels," and I was like, "Okay, me too."
Yeah. For if the people don't know about wrestling, I'm gonna try to do these little bits where I can. If Shawn Michaels is a very famous pro wrestler who's been around for decades, so that's
Yes,
especially
and
during that time period. So that's actually really funny.
has one of the best entrance musics, whether you want to admit it or not. Whatever
I will
your music
happily
taste
admit
is,
that.
whatever your music taste is, you love "Sexy Boy."
Sexy boy. Yeah. Anybody listen to this? Pause this podcast. Go listen. Go Google it. Go YouTube it. Then come back. Come right back. So
Like the 5 seconds, you hear that drums, you're like, "Yeah!"
you know what's happening. But no, cool. So I guess that would have been like WWF days. So what
Yeah,
was there
it's like
something in? Oops, sorry.
Sorry, it's okay.
No, go.
It was the Monday Night Wars, basically, when I started watching, which, like, I didn't understand as a kid, but I was like my cousin would freak out, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, what's happening?"
I feel like
But
that's a lot of people's story with pro wrestling. That some family member, specific friend, like I don't think you can just find pro wrestling on your own. It's like a JoJo bloodline. It comes and it
Yeah.
finds you.
Like, unless you are just a chronic channel flipper and are like, "Oh, violence and people in tights," like,
Yeah.
how are you gonna find it?
Yeah, it just I don't know either because my dad was the one that got me into it. So your cousin Sean is what got you into it, but what about it? Was it the theatrics? Was it the violence? Was it the larger like what particular thing kind of drew you in? Because like there's big characters and stories in any media. What was special about pro wrestling though?
Certainly the theatrics. Gosh, there's a lot. One was seeing women kick ass. I was lucky enough, like, even though there's probably a better women's division before they killed it and then brought China along. Wait, no.
You don't got to get all your details right. I get your sentiment though of
Yeah, my recollection is from watching OSW reviews on YouTube. So if I watch them out of order, then that's the order it's in.
Yep, nope, totally get it.
But seeing women kick ass and take bumps and just be tough as hell and keep showing up, that was amazing. I'm pretty sure I saw China team with either Triple H or Eddie Guerrero once, and I was like, okay, she got to do that. Me now.
Oh, that's
But,
really neat.
It was definitely the theatrics, honestly, because I was immediately drawn to The Undertaker and Goldust because there was something magic about them. And when my cousin told me that The Undertaker was from Death Valley, I was like less than 6 years old. He told me he was from Death Valley and that he lives in an urn that is controlled by a person. And I was like, oh my god, that's awesome! Cool! Like, I was so invested in that story. And, gosh, I forget when we fell out of touch with that.
What of that more fantastical?
Well, people's schedules changed where my mom and her aunt and my aunts couldn't convene like that anymore. So I didn't get to see Sean anymore, and I couldn't remember what channel wrestling was on.
Oh no!
But then one day in 2001 or so, I think it was 2001, I was flipping through the channels because we're at a vacation house in Wildwood. And I'm flipping, and I see this guy. He's pacing back and forth in what looks like a wrestling vignette. So I stop and I watch, and he's pacing back and forth, and he's like, where is he? Looks at his watch, he's like, I gotta get that thing fixed. And whoever the commentator was like, oh, it's The Undertaker. And I was like, what? That's The Undertaker?
Because he would have been American Badass at the time. He would have been Biker Taker.
he was Biker Taker when I knew him as the Dead Man Taker. So I was like, "Are you shitting me?" So naturally, I kept watching because I was like, "All right, who's the Undertaker now? Did he just pass the mantle on to someone else? No, it's the actual fucking Undertaker from 94, 96, whatever." Uh, so yeah, I kept watching, and it was cool. It was there was probably some weird shit because there was a lot of weird shit back then.
I mean, there's a lot of weird
But-
shit in wrestling in general. I feel like that's one of the things that, I mean, I know I love about it. Sometimes you never know what you're gonna get.
You never know. But yeah, so I started watching again in like 2001, kept watching till like I feel like 2009ish, which I feel bad about because I missed the entire CM Punk era.
Oh, me too. Like
Yeah.
right as he's showing up as like a new guy, like they reboot ECW, and it's just like, yeah, I've got high school and marching band. I don't have time for 3 hours. Let's just
Yeah.
and it goes
For
on the
me,
back
it-
burner.
For me, it was college dorm life and not
Mm.
willing to buy cable. I was just like, I don't need cable. I got the internet. Meanwhile, I have no wrestling to watch.
Yep.
But yeah, I think around 2015, 16 I started watching again. So it's been like I feel like every wrestling fan has like uh areas where they stop tuning in just
Yep.
because it's either not good or they don't have cable or there's reasons.
Yeah, no, totally get that. I
Yeah.
had the same story. So you're watching pro wrestling, you're keeping up with it. What's that moment where you're actually like, I'm gonna do it? Because I know watching everybody's like, I'm gonna do this one day, but like you took that step and like actually started training for this. Like what causes that? Where does that start? What's the story?
It starts with indie wrestling, which is more accessible than ever. Uh, and it gets a little personal for me. I don't mind sharing it, but
Yeah,
around
don't ever feel like you have to share something if it makes you uncomfortable.
oh, no. It's just personally for me. Uh, I'll rewind a little bit. When I was like 15 or 16, I was researching how to become a Monster Factory student in pro wrestling in
Which
New
is
Jersey.
a well-known wrestling school in New Jersey that's been around for
Yep.
gosh, decades at this point.
It's where the Big Show trained and graduated from.
Wow.
That's the only name I can remember for some reason. I just thought I saw Big Show and I was like, that's where Big Show's from. I should go there. But my parents would never let me.
Hmm.
And because I was a 16-year-old with no license, I couldn't even sneak out if I tried. But it might have been for the best, honestly. And I'll explain why later. But so yeah, and also my parents tried to talk me out of it. They were like, "No, like just if you become an athlete and you get injured, that's the end of your career.
Hmm.
You should do something scholarly. You should get something that'll make money, basically. Get a
Yeah.
bachelor's." So I was like, "Okay, I'll hang it up." Also because the 2004 Diva Search, or the first Diva Search they had, it made me feel like they only wanted bimbos for some reason.
Yeah, WWE kind of being the main wrestling company in America, pretty much the West in general. Yeah, their women's division it's very often on for a while, and the off moments where it's just
Yeah.
like, we just want models and not people who can actually, like, not athletes or performers, really.
Which is really not fair to like Trish and Lita and
Oh,
Victoria,
a
who
billion %.
yes, they put the work in. And honestly, some of the Diva Search winners, like Chrissy Hemme and Candice Michelle, they were interested in learning how to wrestle, how to get better. But a lot of the girls were just there for the clout, I guess, or the exposure, or
Just to be pretty on screen. But yeah, no, a lot of them did go the extra mile. And I remember some amazing stuff from back then that they did, and I feel like every generation has a couple of those women who were really trying and put on amazing matches. So I totally
Yeah,
get that.
and like sometimes I feel like my idea of those women back then was a little misogynist because like maybe half misogynist because I was like, oh, well, the only reason I'm not going to be able to become a WWE wrestler is because I won't get breast implants or because I won't do splits or because I won't take my clothes off or pose for Playboy. And that just made me really despondent. And I was just like, all right, well, I'll just never wrestle for WWE. And it's wild because like Chrissy Hemme and Maria Kanellis, they're amazing right now. They've been amazing.
Yeah,
They
totally.
had the charisma. They had the athletic ability. It's amazing. But I digress. When I really was like, okay, wrestling is a thing that I can do. It's a thing that I can pursue right now. It was in either early 2016 or or late 2015 when my aunt actually started dating a professional wrestler.
Ah.
Yes. I won't talk about him much. But he in late 2016 he started training me, and it was fun at first. And then as his relationship with my aunt soured, so did our trainer trainee thing sour. They tried to keep it a secret from me. They didn't want it to affect me, but either he was letting it or he just wasn't training me properly. But I sustained a lower back injury because one day I showed up to training and he was like, "All right, we're gonna find out how tough you are." I was like, "What does that mean?" And he was like, we're just gonna find out how tough you are and you're gonna hate me." And I'm like, "Well, why?" And I refer to it as the night of the never-ending hip tosses, because basically I took like more hip tosses than any person would take in any given time in their lives.
Can you describe a hip toss for people that might not be familiar with that,
Yes.
to fully paint this
So
picture?
so the person giving the hip toss, they hook their arm under your arm and they flip you over onto your back. And the hope is that you land on your back the way you would on any other bump, uh, so that it's evenly distributed, so that no part of your back is actually injured. You're just flat, bam. Uh, my hip tosses were messed up. Uh, I don't know if it's because of the way I'm shaped or because of the people that my trainers were used to dealing with. But when I would hip toss, I would not land flat on my back. I would land on my lower back, where my spine, where my uh, lower spine meets my pelvis, basically, and my tailbone. And they gave me so many hip tosses that night, like as part of a spot. Really, it would be like tackle, drop down, hip toss, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they did it so many times that by the end of the night, I was like, if I take one more, I'm gonna cry. And from that night, for like 4 months, I was like, I can't move the lower part of my back.
Oh,
I can't
jeez.
I can't reach my toes like I used to. Luckily, it wasn't any problem with my discs or my spine. It was all just like, it was so inflamed that my bones couldn't move.
Whoa, that's bad.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. And it was also part of the reason why, like, I was having breathing problems, because, like, if you have enough inflammation in your back and ribs, you can't expand your rib cage as much as you usually can.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that was all stuff I learned from that. But I got physical therapy. I took care of myself. I got better, and over that was between like February, March, and April, I think, of that first year that I was wrestling. And then by that summer, I was well enough to start looking to train again. Um, I was looking all over the place because after April 1st, I told my trainer I wasn't coming back.
Hmm.
And that's because our last training session was very uh, there was a lot that went on. It's just a lot, and it's so personal that like it could not possibly interest anyone else. But
There's no
like I
shortage of horror stories in pro wrestling training, and I keep hoping that it's less and less over time. And maybe there is, but they clearly don't stop just because there's a lot of.
and I do have to say, like, just to go off on a tangent,
Go for it.
I'm happy that I started my pro wrestling career later in my 20s, because even though like it's probably better if you start when you're young, but I feel like you're also very vulnerable to legal and physical and emotional abuse. I feel like when you're that young, you don't know what your limits are or how to set them for people that are older than you telling you what to do. So, like, being 27, 28, and being like, "Hey, 40-year-old guy who's trying to teach me the wrong way, fuck you." Like,
You can
it's
stand up for yourself, and yeah,
yeah,
like I said, there's no shortage of horror stories from wrestling training, and being able to put your foot down and
yeah.
mean it and not get taken advantage of, I think, is really important. I mean, that was what you were telling me about that kind of spawned this whole conversation then, that you were somebody who had clearly gone through those turmoils and wanted to make sure nobody else did, which is very admirable.
Thank you. Anyone younger than me coming into the business for the first time, I feel like I have to like I'm the helicopter mom almost. I have to like it's like what's that promoter saying to you? What's the booker saying to you? Like I'm not trying to be a busybody. I just want to make sure that people are taken care of the right way and not coerced into doing stuff they don't want to do.
Hmm.
Because this is a business where like if you're not sure of something and you go through with it anyway, it could be life threatening. It could be the end of your career. And we can talk about that too. Where were we?
Certainly. You had left your original trainer for
Gotcha.
things we're not going to get into. What's the next chapter? Where are you headed next?
I spent a summer well, while I was recovering from my injury, I was managing my friend and colleague Mike Goldstein, who runs Cosplay Pro Wrestling. Uh, so when he wrestled, I would be his manager. We had a little gimmick going, and
Is that in Cosplay Pro Wrestling, or was that a different league?
different league.
Okay.
Yeah. Like he had me in Cosplay Pro Wrestling, but when he would get booked on shows, I would manage him.
Oh, cool.
And honestly, I'll tell you, his name is Mike Goldstein, and he is the reason that I realized that my old trainer was not training me properly, because he was invited to a few training sessions, and the first one he was like, "Okay, she can't bump. She can't do a basic back bump."
Whoa, that is like the most basic of basic. Like that's the first thing you're gonna learn in pro wrestling training, pretty
Yeah.
much.
For some reason, I was super good at all the grappling and stuff, all the lockups, all the chaining, but like they it's almost like they kept putting off the back bumps because I wasn't good at them. And Mike figured it was because they were like, okay, they want you to do stupid spots in their shows
Hmm.
that, put them over for having a female on their roster without actually knowing how to do anything.
Without doing the work, pretty much.
Yeah. And that's when my trainer started to turn abusive because his ego was a little bruised.
Hmm.
But it's not that bad. It was bad to begin with. So just having someone else to come in from outside to be like, hey, you're not being taught properly. You should probably train somewhere else. Like that was all I needed, really.
Sometimes you just
he'd
kind of
been
need that outside push to kind of get you going where your brain's already at.
Yeah, especially because like his skill level was honestly better than my trainer's.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, I'm sure that was embarrassing, but who cares? I have to get back to where we were before that.
So you're training with Mike Goldstein. You're
Yes.
managing him at various shows.
Yes. So I'm his manager. We have like a little sailor gimmick going on there, some anime stuff.
Oh.
It was a weird evolution. At first I was his cheerleader, and my whole thing was that I was really bad at cheerleading and really clumsy. So like if I entered the ring I would trip and fall.
That's very anime. Are you Kimberly Spirit at this point? Because now I'm starting. Pieces
that
are
is-
starting to connect together.
Yes, Kimberly Spirit was all about Kimberly from Power Rangers and Spirit from being school spirit and shit like that.
Whoa! I love learning those like origin stories of names. That's really cool.
Yes, that was all Mike Goldstein. And at first I was like, all right, that's a throwaway name. And 4 years later, here I am. I'm still Kimberly Spirit.
I feel like I hear so many stories of that in wrestling and other things where it's just like, this is the name I got no number, so I guess this is who I am now. Admittedly, it's not a bad name. I've heard there's a lot worse names in pro wrestling.
Grown on me, especially because there's a lot you can do with the word spirit. I've mostly been trying to make it about the rah-rah stuff, like not cheerleader, but just like, positivity,
Yeah.
lifting people up.
You're spirited, yes.
Yes. But lately I've been trying to conjure up a ghostly type thing, especially since I like ghost Pokemon and stuff. So it's still in the works. It's in alpha phase, but we'll see what happens.
I'm excited to see when that comes out then. That's gonna be
Thank you.
awesome.
I hope so. But yeah, that summer after my first show as a manager, my first couple of shows as manager, I was trying to find a place to train once I knew that my back was okay. Because that took a long time. It was a long time to get the MRI, consult people, stuff like that. And of course, they want x rays before the MRI. So it just takes weeks and weeks just to find out what the fuck is wrong. Like, why can't I move my back? And they're like, oh, well, it's just inflamed. And I'm like,
Oh.
oh, I'll just ice it then, I guess. But yeah, that summer I was looking at schools and I was like, all right, any school that wants me to sign a contract to exclusively work for them, I am immediately suspect of. And it's not because of the school themselves. It's just because I feel like contracts like that, especially when you're a young up and coming wrestler, they're very predatory. They're very like, you're mine and you can't go anywhere else. And this is how you learn and this is what you do and this is your gimmick. And I don't like that at all. So I looked at Monster Factory. I was like, no, I don't want to sign their contract. Looked at Chikara, don't want to sign their contract. Even like the smaller time, like the dungeon and stuff like that, I don't want to sign a contract. I don't want to enroll. I just want to pay a $10 or $20 mat fee and just roll around and train and run the ropes and stuff. And Mike points me out to Ken Andrews, who is a wrestler for the Susquehanna Wrestling Organization. And he's like, and Ken Andrews is, he is Link, Monkey D. Luffy, and a few other characters in Cosplay Pro Wrestling.
I haven't seen him as Monkey D. Luffy yet. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that now.
Oh yeah, I gotta show you because I've had a few matches with him as that. I've had a few matches with him as Link and as Monkey, and like he was one of my favorite wrestlers when I first got into indie wrestling, just because of his charisma and how you can tell not that he believes what he's selling, but he's selling it big. He's just like, I'm the best thing, and that's all there is. Like, he just shined. He just outshined a lot of the other wrestlers in the organization that Mike would bring me to manage him. So when he was like, "Yeah, go train with him," he trains with he trains at the dungeon every other week. So I started going, and that's where I met him. That's where I met my current tag team partner, Dustin, who is Zach Belmont.
Okay.
Yeah, like we're both Ken's trainees, basically. Like I probably would have gone to Chikara if I didn't give Ken a try, and I'm honestly glad.
I was just gonna say it's probably best because I think you would have been a good fit, but also Chikara turned out to be a story for not this podcast.
Yeah, I went to a seminar for a Chikara star, and it was a very positive experience. I made a very good friend there, a couple friends actually, but yeah, I found the contractual obligations to be very predatory for young people and up and coming wrestlers. People who just don't know the worth of what they're doing. I'm not saying that people signed with them didn't know what they were worth. I
think you captured it. It's predatory to an extent of keeping somebody locked in because it doesn't give them options. So when push comes to shove, they can't go anywhere else.
Yeah, it was very like, okay, well, you join us. We protect your intellectual property. Protect, as in like it's ours. We will make your gear for you for free. We will pay for your gear, basically, but you're still ours. And yeah, it was almost like a pimp, honestly. A pimp being like, yeah, I'll buy you nice clothes, I'll do this for you, you just gotta do this. And like it's I smelled it from the start. I'm glad that's not the way I went.
Yeah.
Like nothing against anyone who was like, yeah, Chikara, I'll sign with them. Like, if that's good for you, that's fine. But for me, I was like, I value my independence and my freedom. I want to get as much knowledge from as many places as possible. So if it's just about paying $10 to $20 to work your mat and meet your people, I'll do that. Like, it's just better.
Yeah,
honestly.
No. Can I take a slight, very self-indulgent tangent?
Absolutely.
Because I know you're over your Jersey direction. Have you seen or have any interest in trying to get into Camp Leapfrog? Because a lot of the younger trainees went over from Chikara to that, and seeing those tiny babies doing their thing is just like, oh my gosh, they're like, that was one of the things I was most upset at when Chikara closed and all that stuff. It's like, I've seen some of them in action. It's like, they're so good, but they're so weird, but they're so great. So
yes, I absolutely love what Camp Leapfrog is doing. I love everyone who's in Camp Leapfrog because I follow them all on Twitter. I see all the stuff they're doing, and I'm so jealous. Because, like, I mean, probably I don't know anyone in Camp Leapfrog's management or whatever, or their booking, but I love their talent. I love their weirdness and all the ideas they have. They're just having so much fun, and I'm so jealous.
Like again, self-serving moment, but like you know people who have connections to those people. Like you were, I mean, obviously for the story why you didn't show up in Chikara then, but like seeing you in the ring, and admitted some of this is shaped by Cosplay Pro Wrestling, but like you have that kind of like, it just, you seem like you would fit there really well. because it's that more sort of theatrical, sort of cartoony, more over the top style, and I think that'd be a good home for Kimberly Spirit. So
Much to me, honestly.
I'm rooting for
'Cause
you.
I would love to be a part of it. I think the thing is that I haven't reached out to them, and it's probably on me because in November I caught COVID. I
Oh wow.
spent I spent a lot of time recovering from that. I didn't even have bad COVID. I just had COVID at the same time I had a weird allergy reaction,
Ooh.
which is it's taken care of now because I'm on Zyrtec. Uh, and then the entire month of December was weird. I just had a lot of personal events happen where it's like I don't have time to work out. I'm not in ring shape, and uh, yeah, even if they invited me, I'd be like, I can't do much because I have no stamina left from being sick and everything. But this past month, I've been getting real serious about getting back into training and back into ring shape. So
Awesome.
I've got some workout routines going. So once I feel ready to uh return to like the Worldwide Wrestling Dojo with Sumi and Cheeseburger, I feel like I want
Those are wrestlers, by the way. Sorry to do the tangent.
they
Those
are,
two
yeah.
people she just listed are pro wrestlers. There's a
Yes.
man named Cheeseburger, though I don't think he's
They're
named Cheeseburger anymore, is he? He just changed his
I
name.
know he is the world famous CB now,
CB
formerly known as
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger. And Sumi Sakai, who is a traditionally trained Joshi from Japan. I love them both so much. Like I've only seen them like twice, and I'm still like they are my wrestling mom and dad. And I can't wait to train with them again. But yeah, like I trained with them for like a couple weeks or like 3 or 4 weeks before I got COVID, and then I was like, all right, well, on the shelf I go. Uh, but they've been so great. They're very supportive trainers. Like going into a women's class with Sumi Sakai, I thought I was gonna step into like a women's prison where we have to like go in and just punch the biggest girl we see to establish dominance. Like, because I've never had an all women's class before.
True.
Uh,
Yeah, women's
but
wrestling is only like it's been obviously as we've talked about, it's been around for decades, but it hasn't been like it's not
not
normalized, I guess yet. I don't know if that's
not
the
in
word I want
America.
either. No.
Yeah, America, I feel like, and this is a big point of contention, but I feel like out of spite, after Alundra Blaze binned her
Mm,
women's title at WCW, Vince McMahon was like, I'm gonna set back women's wrestling for 20 years.
I don't think he needed that as an excuse. We both know Vince McMahon and how he feels about women. I don't think he needed an
Yeah,
excuse.
yeah. Uh, but yeah, going in, like, especially at the Worldwide Wrestling Dojo, everyone is so chill. No one's there to like compete with you or bite your head off or anything like that. They just want to help you get better. They just want to show you how it's done. Like, and they're very gentle about explaining what you've done wrong. And especially Sumi, she is too nice to us stupid baby American gaijin that that don't know what a real ring feels like. And the
Oh?
fact that she teach the no, yeah, in Japan the rings are like they're like boxing rings. They don't have any give as far as I know.
Oh wow.
And yeah, especially in like a Joshi dojo, it's Sumi told us stories about people who would run away in the dark of night because it was so rough. And I'm not laughing at that. It's astounding to me because then Sumi came here and she's teaching us, and I'm a big lazy baby. But she's been so sweet and so kind and so helpful. Like that is a school I would recommend, is the Worldwide Wrestling Dojo for sure.
Cool. Okay. So if anybody wants to get in pro wrestling out there and you're in the like Philly, New Jersey, New Yorky kind of tri-state area.
They're in Bristol, yeah. In Bristol, PA.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've Google Maps them and debated about the drive time many nights.
What's the drive time?
It's like 2 hours.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I was just like, once a week, I could maybe swing that, but like 2 nights back to back, get home at midnight or something. It was just like,
Do not do 2 nights back to back.
Can't do it.
What I would do 3 hours on a Saturday with Sumi, and I would spend the next week recovering from it. The first hour is warm-ups and cardio, and then it's all technique and some Japanese shoot techniques and stuff like that. Like it's a lot. Like if you're
wrestling
not
is a lot, yeah.
It really is. It's a lot to be in shape for, and it's hard to stay in shape for because you're doing so many things with your body that however much cardio you're doing, like on the treadmill, on the elliptical, like it's probably not enough because you also have to be bending and stooping and dropping down and stuff like that.
And lifting and jumping and all that, yeah.
Yes, gym shape is definitely different than ring shape.
Got it.
I've been rambling a lot.
No, that's fine. You have interesting stories to tell. I'm just trying to figure out where we drive the boat next, because we've hopped around in the timeline. So I guess because we've talked about it a little bit, and that's one of the main spots that I met you at. Tell me about Cosplay Pro Wrestling. For people who may not know what is Cosplay Pro Wrestling? Because it is like one of my favorite things in the world.
It's one of my favorite things in the world also. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is Cosplay Pro Wrestling, where all of your wrestlers performing are video game or anime characters that you know already. So if you're invested in Pikachu, we have CM Pikachu. Like we do a lot of parodies of current or former wrestlers. We have Rick Flareon, we have Charlotte Flareon, who is me, who is the current Pokemon champion. We have Giovanni from Team Rocket, Isabelle from Animal Crossing, Princess Peach from Mario. We have Mario and Luigi, who are the Bullet Club brothers.
They are fantastic. Some of the matches they put on that I've seen are incredible.
They are fantastic, and anytime I think about them, I think at the time there was a time when Mario and Luigi were feuding, and Luigi hit Mario with a barbed wire bat, and it just stuck there. It was just stuck in his bat. Oh my goodness. It gets wild. Currently, myself, Isabelle, and Princess Peach are co-Smash Bros. Champions, being managed by Giovanni of Team Rocket, who he turned Peach evil, basically. But then he tricked Isabelle into a contract. So Isabelle won a Money in the Bank contract.
Okay.
And Giovanni was like, hey, if you sign this contract, you get to be co-champion if you just give me your Money in the Bank.
And for people unknowing, Money in the Bank is basically like, hey, you get an opportunity at the championship whenever you won. Yes.
Literally. Like, if your champion just lost a match and is dead on the ring, you can run in and just be like, me now, and yes, 1, 2, 3.
It's yours.
Yep.
Cool.
So, Isabelle traded her Money in the Bank for a co-championship, which no one liked.
I didn't know Princess Peach was wrestling now. I just thought she was manager and ring announcing. That's interesting.
For the most part. She does do some bumps and some spots, but for the most part, she's an actress.
Gotcha. Okay.
But you know what? She's my co-champion, and also it's been like 2 years since any of us have performed, and she has been boxing like hell.
Whoa.
So I think when we come back, she is gonna kick some ass.
Gosh.
For real.
When you guys come back and we get to finally, go see a live wrestling show, like my head is gonna explode, because I guess to talk about, like, I love Cosplay Pro Wrestling because at least I've personally seen it mostly at cons, let them be video game or anime or otherwise, and I am most like I don't have anybody else to talk to wrestling about, and it's such a hard thing to describe to people why it rules. You just have to be you have to be indoctrinated somehow. But Cosplay Pro Wrestling, like you said, because it's all these characters people are invested in already, they go, "Oh my gosh, it's Pikachu, it's Solid Snake, it's this massive man who is dressed in pink and is Jigglypuff." And they get into it, and that like having that moment when all of my friends are loving this thing that I love all the time as much as I am getting to it. I have a buddy who just goes hoarse yelling at these things and cheering and shouting jeers out at the bad guys at the heels, and it fills me with energy to go like, this dude who's never seen wrestling before is so invested right now, and it's just this wonderful like validation of like this thing that I love, like everybody could love it because it's amazing. So I thank you for being a part of the thing that can make that happen.
Yes, for people who get it, it's a very religious experience without religion. It's just like, yes, the energy coming from the performers, from the crowd, from the music, like and also during the matches, the sounds. It's a very sound-based sport. Like if you listen to a wrestling match without the slam of the canvas or the clang or of whatever, like it's just not as satisfying. It's a real phenomenon.
No, I totally get, like, live TV wrestling, while great, is not the same as live wrestling. There's just something about there, especially in smaller venues where you're close up, that just makes every move just that much more like amazing, and it makes it kind of special. I will always remember my first time seeing what is it? Susquehanna. I never remember the acronym. What is it? Susquehanna.
Susquehanna Wrestling Organization.
SWO, yes. Down in York, which I didn't even know we had an organization local to where I lived because I don't like driving up to Philly. And I still, besides the whole match being great, I actually remember you being in a Next Gen, I remember at the time, which was pretty neat.
That.
But
no, go ahead. I'm trying to figure out like when you might have seen me, because
Well, I want to get to Next Gen then. We're getting into the very self-serving just questions of how I learned about you through pro wrestling, but I will always remember, I think it was a wrestler by the name, I don't know if his name was the Green Machine or that was his moniker, but just like flipping a man like up into the sky, and like I swear he almost touched the rafters, and like looking back at video, he's like nowhere near it, but like when you're on the ground, you're looking up this ring and this massive man just tossing people around like sacks of potatoes, like it's like you were saying, like it's almost like a religious experience. Like you just have, it just becomes this like crazy, like mythic thing happening, and it's the coolest thing. And I want people to understand pro wrestling rules.
I'm so excited because I know exactly what show you're talking about. I believe it was a St. John's charity event, and we had me versus Ali Rex versus James Ellsworth. And later on, we had
No, I think
Mike
that was
Orlando.
a different one. I don't think.
Oh no, it was. You're right.
This one was just. This one didn't have any. This one, yep, it was in Red Lion. It was at the fire. I think is it the fire company? I don't know, but yeah, it was in Red Lion.
Yes, Orlando, the Green Machine. He German suplexed the referee Sean Rollins so hard he just flew out of the ring.
It was incredible.
It's the greatest thing you'll ever see. Sean's still alive, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's doubtful if you would have seen it, but I guess no, that's fine. I guess we'll just bridge to that then. Tell me about Next Gen. What is Next Gen? What was it? What happened to it?
So Next Gen, after I started training with Ken Andrews, who is part of Next Gen, he invited me to be a part of his stable with Simon Rhyme and Trent Farrell to become Next Gen. Basically, they're just they wore black and yellow because they were X-Men. Basically, they were like an X-Men gimmick, and they would announce that they were from like Xavier School of Gifted Children and stuff like that or something. And they were like, okay, well, just, wear black and yellow and you'll be the girl in Next Gen. Like I while I was a trainee, I would manage them. And during their matches, I would do different spots and, interferences and stuff like that. But we were a face group, so I wasn't interfering like actively. I was just like, hey, if you're doing bad things, I'm gonna yell at you and I'm gonna harass your manager or whatever. Like and yeah, it was a lot of fun. They were also very welcoming and had a lot of feedback for me. And we're all really good friends still. It's been like 3 or 4 years now, and we all still talk. We all still dream of a Next Gen reunion, which yeah, Next Gen broke up eventually. We eventually had a storyline where me and Trent broke off, and Ken and Simon broke off because Trent started to feel like Ken was too involved with his championship to care about the sake of the team, and yeah, it was a little dramatic, yeah.
I mean, that's pro wrestling. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask, because very similar to your kind of Undertaker story where you're paying attention and then you kind of fall out for a while. Like, I went to that show and loved it and then wasn't able to get back to another show like months later, and like the entire landscape was like completely different, and I'm like, what happened? Like, everybody's broken apart. Some of the bad guys are like good guys now. Some of the good guys are bad guys, and it's always, I don't know, makes it neat.
And we try to fill that in. Like, we know that not every fan can make it to every show, which is why we try to upload the footage of the matches and stuff as soon as we can, so that between the months and the shows you can catch up.
Certainly.
But
And
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
and I was gonna say, actually, one of the things I liked going to that and to other indie shows is I personally really like going to shows where I know almost nobody on the card, so you can just go every time somebody comes out, you just get to figure out how you feel about them in that moment. Like, everything is just this wonderful open canvas. It's not like, oh, I know that guy, I'm gonna cheer for him or I'm gonna boo him. It's just like you kind of open yourself up to these amazing new experiences, because it's like that was like the first indie show that I went to that was like, I feel like truly indie, because I feel like I'd been to like a Chikara show or something and a couple others, and that one, and just the range of amazing human beings that I saw there. I saw a man breathe fire. I got to see and learn about Sonny Kiss, who is this amazing wrestler who's got the most astounding ass a human being could possess, and now I get to see them on live television. And it's
wild.
It's those moments where you get to see somebody, besides just like seeing up and comers, and like you pick your people and go like, this is my guy, this is my gal, this is my person, like, and watching them like grow and expand, and you want them to do good and like show up in other places. Like, he's shown up a couple times in Susquehanna, but like the Whisper, who originally came from Chikara, like he's a guy I like to watch, and now you guys from some Next Gen, when you pop up other places, it's always really neat.
Thank you. Yeah, it was always cool having Chikara people over, because it was always it was a different experience, especially when the masked Chikara people showed up, because they had to stay in their mask the entire time.
Did you get a lot? Admittedly, I didn't see every show, but I usually try to keep up with the posters. I don't remember too many. Who else was showing up there around that time?
The ants, Hermit Crab, yeah, I think it was mostly ants and Hermit Crab. I can't remember any other masked Chikara wrestlers really showing up much.
Okay. I want to say Molly McCoy showed up at some point.
She sure did. She faced me.
Oh, wow. Cool. Oh, man. I'm sad I didn't see that
Yeah.
match. That's been cool. Did Boomer ever show up?
I don't know about Boomer. I don't think
Okay.
he did. If he did, I'm sure I would have known, or I just wasn't at that show.
He's a guy that I've like seen like once in person, but I will always remember I got to see Chikara now a few years ago at a baseball stadium after a game, And after his match, he's just chilling out. He's got his mask on. He's just in like shorts, like freaking ab monster, dude. But he's like tiny, and he's just like Sting. He's like, there's this big like concrete stairwell that's like locked away from people that he's just sitting and watching. It's like 9-10 p.m. It's dead of night. All the lights are on though for the show, and he's just sitting there watching it. Like that guy is gonna be like, he's gonna be somebody. I mean, he's obviously somebody already, but like sometimes you just see people and you go, they're going places, and you just kind of want to you wish them well on their journey.
Definitely. Boomer and Molly are so cool. My first I went to a tryout for Excellence Pro Wrestling, which was Chikara adjacent. A lot of Chikara people were playing there. It was in not Copley at the time. It was a different town in Pennsylvania, close to Copley. But yeah, me and Corey Orion had tryouts there. We were the only two people who showed up for the tryouts, so we got on the show. My time's mixed up.
That'll happen, especially now that we've been locked away for almost a year, and time
real,
is
yeah.
just like,
All right,
who
so
knows?
yeah, it was Corey and Blackstrom versus me and Sonny Defarge. Because we're the only two people who showed up. There are 2 spaces on the roster, so they were just like, okay, there you go. Yeah, that weekend I wrestled like 5 times.
Wow.
Just from the tryout. Like I double shotted the Saturday, and then Sunday I had a solo darling not tryout, but a seminar where I also had to have a match. Which I had with Demarest, which was really cool. It's how I met him. Sorry, this happens. I'll ramble a lot.
No, it's fine. It's interesting. We're actually starting to run low on time, so I guess I wanna the last bit of this, even though like I could totally just keep talking for wrestling
Boomer
for
and
ages.
Molly were great. I like Boomer and Molly. I faced them with a Canadian guy. It was good.
Nice. As we're going down, and I guess this is a big question, so I guess it's okay if we run over a little bit. What do you love about pro wrestling now being a part of it? Like, what are some of your favorite things being a pro wrestler? Like, what keeps you coming back?
The spectacle, obviously, because that's what it is all the time. I love the physicality almost. Like, sometimes the bumps and the aches you feel after training and after wrestling, like, it makes you want to do it more. Like, yeah, you want to rest, but also you don't want that to go away before you get a chance to do it again. But most of all, what keeps me coming back to pro wrestling is entertaining fans, entertaining my friends, entertaining other wrestlers. It's been my goal all the time to just make people laugh, make people forget their troubles for a while. And it's also a very creative challenge. Every match, every storyline is a creative challenge for you to figure out, okay, how do we tell this story with our bodies, with some words if we can, but like, how do we show people what we're about, and how do we put forth this message without putting forth this one? Like, especially with intergender wrestling, like it's a whole nother spiel, I know, and it's a long story, but when people try to I lost myself for a second. Could you wind me back a little bit?
Something about intergender wrestling, when people try to
they try to make sense of it almost, or they try to pick apart why it doesn't make sense when there isn't intergender wrestling. There's just wrestling. Wrestling is a cooperative sports entertainment. So if it's not believable to you that a woman can't beat a man, or if a small man can't beat a large woman, or some shit like that. It's not on wrestling to do that work for you, because we are doing that work for you. We are showing you that story. If you don't believe it because it's not realistic, why are you even watching wrestling?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying wrestling is fake. I'm saying that it's entertainment. And, like, I don't know.
No, I get where
it's an
you're coming
exhausting
at it.
subject.
It's a performance. It's not an actual fight, you know? If that's what you're looking for, there's UFC, but that's not what makes pro wrestling special.
And we're all trying to make pro wrestling much more inclusive now, where, like, men and women don't matter anymore. Because there's not just men and women, and there's...
I feel like a lot of that becomes a lot easier that you don't have to go, oh, which division do you fit in if you just go wrestle, you know? I feel like one of the, I guess to name another Chikara baby that I love and adore over and want to see them grow, Still Life, who's like one of the first non-binary wrestlers I've ever seen, is just like, I'm just so happy they're around and they're doing well and they're getting better all the time, and it's just like, yes, this is the ecosystem that I want in pro wrestling, that this is for everybody. It's not just about freaking tough old dudes beating the heck out of each other. Not that to say that it can't happen sometimes, because sometimes that's fun, but like it's for everyone. And that is
like,
really
if
awesome
all
that you're fighting for that.
Thank you.
Literally and both in the ring.
Yeah, like, if all someone's looking for is Hoss matches, we can have a Hoss championship. We can have Hosses fight Hosses.
And
Like,
that's
it's...
dope sometimes.
Yes! It really is. Like, it... Honestly, people who worry about gender in wrestling are working themselves into a shoot, because gender is a work.
Oh, why did you make me have to do a bunch of descriptions for things at the end? So,
Sorry.
no, it's fine. My buddy told me anytime stuff like this comes up, I need to make sure I talk about it, and wrestling always goes it, because I use this language just all the time, and I don't think people know what I'm talking about. So,
I'll help you if you need.
go for it. I'll let you do it. You're the trained pro wrestler. Tell me about what a work and a shoot is. That we're gonna have to take it home, to use more parlance.
The least, shoot is real, and work is choreographed or preordained. So, if I say I'm at my shoot job, that means I'm at my office job that pays for my wrestling addiction. If I say it's a work, it means that, like, if I tell Andrew he's a piece of shit, if that's a work, sorry, Andrew.
No, it's fine. I do.
It's just a work,
Yeah.
which means that it's fake, and we're just saying that for the sake of a storyline or something like that. That's just for a wrestling audience. It's not because I feel like Andrew's a piece of shit. He is not.
Oh, thank you.
Or they are not. I'm sorry, I never asked.
That's fine. I don't care really.
Okay.
But cool. Oh my gosh, this entire conversation's been amazing, and if I wanted to keep it over an hour, we'd keep going, but I want to keep it to an hour, so... Katie, where can people find you on the socials? Talk about what you're up to, talk about where people can find you.
I'm on twitter.com/Catie_V, which is CATIE_V. And you can find me on Patreon on the same name. Teespring, I am teespring.com/stores/smells-like-Kim-spirit.
That was impressive.
Teespring does not deal with store names very well.
I've
Not
never heard
especially
somebody
when...
pimp a Teespring either, in both this and anything else, so that was a first for anything. That was impressive. You got it right from memory.
I honestly, I have two designs and many styles for sale. I'm gonna have more soon. But really, it's the Twitter and the Patreon, and the Twitch, twitch.tv/Katie with a C_V. And yeah, I got my link tree on my Twitter, so if you get the Twitter right, you'll catch all of that.
To anywhere else you're going.
Thank you.
And I'd tell people where to find you at pro wrestling shows, but pro wrestling, except in really specific spaces, isn't really happening right now. So I guess keep a lookout on her socials when the world opens back up, where to find her, because I know I am very excited to go see another pro wrestling show where I can see Kimberly Spirit in action or any of the other characters you play on Cosplay Pro Wrestling.
Thank you.
And with that, thank you for joining me, and I will see you all, you lovely listeners and watchers, next time on The Grog Zone.
A huge thank you to our patrons, SamuDash, Jason Kuzmak, Statman Dan, NeverendingNerd, Riftwing Designs, and Frenchie McHugh. Without your support, this project wouldn't be possible.